Guys, this is a big one. This is a really big one. What's up everybody, I'm Seth Fowler and today I am very excited because I'm reviewing one of my favorite releases of the year, the white Off-White Air Jordan 1. Thanks so much for tuning in today guys. Make sure to give me a follow on Instagram and on Twitter at @RealSethFowler if you haven't yet. Also make sure to head on over to Twitch and give me a follow over there at Seth Fowler. But with all that out of the way, let's get into it. As I'm sure you all know, the original Off-White Air Jordan 1 was my favorite release and my favorite pickup of 2017. And when I saw they were releasing a brand new colorway of the sneaker, I knew I had to have it. Unfortunately though, there were some hurdles. As of right now, the shoe is only released in Europe, so all the pairs that are in the United States have come over from those releases. So not only is the shoe hard to find because it's a hype sneaker, but it's also really hard to find because there just aren't that many pairs in the United States. I just picked up this pair from Joe at Sneaker Fleet in Soho, so if you guys want to check out their stuff, there'll be a link in the description below. However, to be honest, if you guys missed out on the release on March 3rd, I'm sure there will be a global release or a United States release in the very near future. Nothing's confirmed, but I really wouldn't be surprised if this shoe released in the United States. The original Off-White 1 released last year as part of the 10 collection, which was Virgil Abloh's Off-White collaboration with Nike. The collection featured 10 Nike sneakers that had received the Off-White treatment. Of course, the Air Jordan 1 was the marquee sneaker of that collection. Needless to say, all the sneakers in the collection are extremely coveted and extremely limited, so if you have a pair, count yourself lucky. But the good news is it looks like the collaboration is continuing with Nike and Virgil Abloh, and we've got a couple different Off-White sneakers releasing this year. We have the black Off-White MoMA Air Force 1s that released about a month ago. We have two colorways of the Off-White Vapor Maxes releasing for Air Max Day, and of course on March 3rd the Air Jordan 1 was released in the second colorway. Even though the construction of this Air Jordan 1 is pretty similar to what we had last year, we do have some changes in the colorway and the actual packaging of the sneaker. But because this sneaker has pretty incredible packaging, let's take a look at the box before we actually dive into the sneakers themselves. Unlike last year's Off-White Air Jordan 1s where the box was reversed and you saw basically just plain cardboard on the outside of the box, this time around Virgil opted for the more classic exterior of the box, except this time it's a little bit different because you've got this sort of door or flap on the front. This flap is pretty cool because it actually allows you to see the sneakers inside the box, which I think is a really interesting touch. In order to keep dust and the elements off the sneakers when they're in the box, there is a little plastic piece that acts as kind of a window. As for the rest of the exterior, you do have a pretty standard Air Jordan 1 box. Inside, however, things do change up again because instead of regular paper, Virgil opted for this sort of plastic wrap, which has the text that's printed on the medial side of the sneaker, which says Off-White for Nike Air Jordan 1, Beaverton, Oregon, USA, 1985. I think this new approach to the packaging is pretty cool, and I'm glad that Virgil's trying new things and not just going with what he did last year. Not that what he did last year was bad, it's just kind of cool to see that he's experimenting. Now moving on to the part we've all been waiting for, without further ado, here they are, the white Off-White Air Jordan 1s. These shoes are fire. These shoes are gorgeous. They're incredible. I will say though, I've only had these shoes for about half a day and I've already gotten them a little dirty from just touching them, so that's a concern. But other than that, I mean, they're amazing. Starting off from the toe box of the sneaker, you've got this double layered white leather wrapping around the outside. Last year's version didn't have this double layer of leather, so it looks like they added it for a little bit more durability, which I think is a nice touch. On the top of the toe, you've got this white or sort of very light blue foam. This material has perforations and fuse overlay over the stitching just like last year's. It's thicker and a lot softer than the leather that you usually have on the toe box of the Air Jordan 1s, which is nice. However, you definitely have to be careful when it comes to stains on this material because they're a lot harder to take out. And that's just because foam is very absorbent, whereas leather kind of just lets things roll off of it. Moving up the tongue, the sneaker comes laced with these white laces that say shoelaces written in black. But unlike last year's pair that only came with a couple different lace colors, this time around you've got 4 different extra options when it comes to laces. And these aren't just one lace each, these are sets of laces. So I mean, you really have a lot of options when it comes to lace colors. You can do white and black, you can do black and black, you can do purple and orange, really whatever you want, because you've already got white laces, you've got black laces, you've got orange laces, purple laces, and even light blue laces. When it comes to lace customizability, you're set. Oh, and if you were wondering, all the laces say shoelaces at the end of them. As you would expect from the Off-White Nike collection, this shoe does come with the zip tie. This time around, the zip tie comes in this light blue or sort of baby blue color rather than the orange that we had last year. I actually really dig this color with this sneaker. I think it goes a lot better with the sneaker. I think the orange would have been just a little bit too much. That is, if you're gonna wear your sneaker with the zip tie on the shoe. I personally don't, but it's an option. And if you were wondering what the zip tie says, it says Off-White CO Nike C 2018, zip tie in quotation marks. Continuing up the shoe to the top of the tongue, tongue, you've got the offset Nike Air logo. This time around, the patch is in white with the logo text being in neon orange. This is one of my favorite design details on the Off-White collection. All Virgil really did was kind of move a tag from the top of a tongue to the side, but I think the actual look that it gives the shoe is really nice. The tongue itself is made up of the standard Air Jordan 1 material. This time around, even though it sort of looks white, it is a light blue. And when I say light blue, I mean extremely light. The only real way that you can tell that it's blue is sort of see it in person and be able to compare it to the laces or another white part of the sneaker. Just like last year's pair, the top of the tongue and the top of the ankle area is left unfinished to give it sort of that prototype look. I love the prototype aesthetic that all these Off-White sneakers have. I think they look great, but that's just my opinion. Not everyone loves it. Inside the shoe, the sock liner is made up of this white mesh. The padding is definitely not as plush as the standard Air Jordan 1, which has sort of these pillows around the ankle. This is just sort of one straight piece of foam that kind of runs all the way down the back of the shoe, but it's not as comfortable as what you usually find in an Air Jordan 1. Rounding off the inside of the sneaker, you've got this white insole with Nike Air branding on the heel. That's a little bit different than last year's pair. Last year's pair didn't have the Nike Air branding. It actually had the Off-White, the 10 logo on the heel. I don't know why they changed it up. I kind of like the Off-White logo on the inside of the shoe, but it is what it is. As for fit, the Off-White Air Jordan 1 fits just like any other Air Jordan 1. For me, that's true to size. What I would suggest if you've never owned a pair of Air Jordan 1s is go to your local sneaker store, try a pair on, find the size that fits best for you, and then go with that size when you buy your pair of Off-Whites. Moving back on the midfoot of the sneaker, you've got leather panels around the eyelets. These leather panels come in white with white stitching, and just like last year's pair, one of Virgil's favorite design details is to leave some of these edges unstitched so they have this sort of perforated look. Again, contributing to that prototype aesthetic that I really dig. Moving even farther back on the sneaker, you've got the oversized offset swoosh. This time around, the swoosh is in white with blue stitching on the front and on the back. As you'd expect from any Off-White Nike sneaker, you've got that little hit of orange at the back of the swoosh. Underneath the swoosh, you've got more of that light blue foam material that you found on the toe of the sneaker. Again, super soft, super stain prone. Around the heel of the sneaker on the lateral side, you've got this piece of flip leather that almost feels like a thick nubuck. It's basically just the back side of the leather and has this really nice sort of tan look that breaks up the white color of the shoe. It also feels pretty nice to the touch as well. Of course, you've got your Air Jordan Wings logo in white. You've still got your standard Air Jordan 1 flap at the top of the shoe. All the edges of this flap are left unstitched, but they still have the perforation holes. This allows this flap to kind of flop around, and you can see the natural leather on the back side of it. Not only that, but another one of my favorite design details on the Off-White Air Jordan 1 is that on the back of the flap, you've actually got 85 in quotation marks printed onto it. That, of course, references the year that the Air Jordan 1 came out, 1985. Underneath the flap, you've got more of that exposed foam material. The heel counter of the shoe is white, but rather than being leather, it's this really hard sort of resin material. I'm still not sure what that material is. It could be what's actually on the inside of most Air Jordan 1s to give it its structure and to give your heel some lockdown. I'm not sure, but it's there and I don't mind it. Moving around to the medial side of the sneaker, you get to one of the most iconic features on any Off-White Nike sneaker, the Off-White for Nike branding. This printed paragraph is featured on the medial side of every single Off-White Nike sneaker, and obviously the wording changes depending on the shoe that it's printed on. On this particular pair, because it is an Air Jordan 1, the text says Off-White for Nike Air Jordan 1, Beaverton, Oregon, USA, 1985. Just like the plastic that was in the box. Also, a majority of the medial side of the shoe comes in white leather rather than that exposed foam that you have on the lateral side. However, instead of a Nike swoosh, you have these perforation holes to indicate where the swoosh would be. I love everything about the medial side of this shoe. I love every little design detail. I love how a lot of these stitching holes are left empty. I just think it's great. I went to school for industrial design. I worked professionally as an industrial designer for a long time, so this really hits home, sort of prototyping your ideas and constructing something that doesn't look like a final just to get an idea of how it will look. And that whole concept really draws me to the Off-White collection. Moving down the sneaker, you get to your Air Jordan 1 midsole. Something interesting about this shoe that I didn't actually notice until I had this particular pair in hand. I've seen this shoe in person before at Jordan brand events, but I just didn't notice it then. The actual midsole portion of the shoe is a slightly different shade of white than the outsole of the sneaker. It's more sort of a yellowish off-white color than the outsole itself. And I think that's a really cool design detail. It's something that I didn't expect. Something you would expect, however, from the Off-White collection is the Air branding on the heel with quotation marks. Another dope Off-White design detail. And finally, getting to the bottom of the sneaker, you get your true white Air Jordan 1 outsole. Overall, the 2018 white Off-White Air Jordan 1 is an incredible sneaker. I love every design choice made on the shoe. I love the subtle color variations throughout. I love how clean the colorway is and how it can go with pretty much anything you want to wear. It's just a great sneaker. I will say though, because it is a white sneaker with some very absorbent materials throughout, it is a stain magnet, so you've got to be very careful about that. And even though I think this is a really great sneaker, I think overall I still prefer last year's Chicago colorway of the Off-White Air Jordan 1s. That's just my preference. You guys might think something different, but I think this is just a gorgeous shoe overall. A little piece of insight into the design of the sneaker is that apparently when Virgil was first designing the 10 collection, this was meant to be the original Air Jordan 1 colorway to release, which I mean kind of makes sense when you look at the other sneakers in the collection. They do have a very sort of white and off-white theme, but because Virgil really loved about the Chicago colorway and how iconic it was. He switched things up at the last minute, and I'm glad he did. I'm super happy to have this sneaker in my collection, and I'm very excited for the United States release. But now that we've got the review out of the way, let's throw these guys on feet and see how they look. That pretty much wraps it up for the video today, guys. Make sure to leave a comment in the comment section down below letting me know what you think of the white Off-White Air Jordan 1s and whether you're going to try and grab a pair for yourself. And as always, guys, thank you so much for watching. Thank you again to Sneaker Flea for helping me out with this pair. Please make sure to give this video a big thumbs up if you liked it. Subscribe to me, Seth Fowler, if you want to see more content just like this. And follow me on all other forms of social media. The links will be in the description below.